Welcome to another episode of Pitstop Fracas. I'm your host Mahad, and we're here today. With me is Laurence. How we doing, brother?
All good, as you can see. Obviously, for those which you can see that the background after that masterclass from my brother, my Asian brother Alex, all good, all good.
You're representing Albon. We don't have an Albon representative on this pod, but guess what? We've got one now. Tell you that now. This guy rants and raves about Albon. We're back today. I'm back on hosting duty. We're going to be talking about the Canadian Grand Prix that happened on Sunday. Sorry, this is late. That's my fault. I forgot I was hosting, but that's just how it is sometimes. It's a podcast game, you know what I mean? Before we get started, follow us on Pitstop Fracas on Twitter, follow us on Pitstop Fracas on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and if you are watching us on YouTube, give this a like, add some comments. We would love to see your comments. And if you're listening to this on Spotify or an Apple Podcast, please give us a 5-star review and leave us some nice comments and reviews. We'll get started because this was an interesting weekend. We've had a lot of wet weekends in Formula One recently. Shout outs to global warming. And Canada was for the second year running raining. And we are going to talk about certain individuals in Quali because it was mixed conditions. It was heavy downfall in FP3, kind of continued at the beginning of qualifying. And there were some interesting dropouts and interesting driving standards as well in Formula One. The first person that we're going to cast some judgment over is Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz seemed to be impeding the whole world. Even if he wasn't in Formula One, if he was on the M25, he's impeding you. He's everywhere. He's impeded. Give us your thought and breakdown of the kind of driving standards of Carlos Sainz and Lance Stroll at the beginning of that session. What was going through their mind?
So Carlos Sainz Jr. Let me just every passing week, I get closer and closer to thinking he's fully adopted. This guy has one of the greatest rally drivers of all time as a father. This guy's dad had him out in the rain every single day when he was about 5 years old in the car, apparently, allegedly. And yet, well, I couldn't quite believe what we were seeing, to be honest. So, I mean, the impeding was one thing. Obviously, there wasn't really any real pace in what he showed. And I think, obviously, the weather's always the great equalizer. So, and given the type of track Canada is, it doesn't, aside from Red Bull side, it doesn't really matter too drastically about where your car is to that extent. But I mean, yeah, for his defense to come out and be that other people are blocking him, so I mean that's so petty. It's something obviously you see on like an indoor karting session or something like that. So I mean, that's it. There's not really much more to add on.
There was that particular incident that cost Gasly, right?
Yeah, I mean that's scary. If you've seen any of the live footage on that as well, obviously from the grandstands, that doesn't matter if you're being told. That's just blatant disregard, obviously, for other people trying to set their lap because he's in the middle of the track, so he's impeding one on his right. He's impeding Gasly, obviously coming on the racing line. But I don't even know what he's doing because why would you start your lap in the middle of the chicane? So he already messed up his own lap, and obviously then got a penalty for it. So all round howler from obviously someone who's supposed to be decent in those conditions, especially judging them. But it was quite concerning actually. That obviously that's an opportunity for him as well. I think obviously Inter-team to put down a marker, given that then obviously they're not in at the same level as they were last year, Ferrari. And yeah, again, just a miss on his behalf.
Just seems to be just a weekly thing. Something's going wrong with Carlos Sainz. He's either getting a penalty or he's crashing out. Because he even crashed out in free practice as well. And completely destroyed his front wing. It's literally always something with this guy. And you see, like, sometimes you get a glimmer of hope, like, oh, this is the turning point now for Carlos Sainz. This is where he's going to turn things around. And I would say he's a bit of a middle-of-the-road driver. But it's these type of moments where you're thinking, firstly, there's no awareness in your driving because you need to get your. And I don't know whether this is something on Ferrari pit wall as well, because obviously we had the Monaco situation with Leclerc as well, or is it like at the end of the day, that's one of the fastest. That's one of the hardest braking points in Formula One. That corner, you need to be able to finish your lap. If you are on a hot lap, you can't be dawdling there, and it doesn't even benefit your lap to be dawdling in there. Your next lap to be going that slow on that corner.
Nope.
Generate some heat in the tires and start.
That's the thing. Like, even if you take out the fact how unsafe it is, the guy's messed up his lap before it's even begun. Obviously, we saw how much temperature was key there, and he's been idling down the straight. Yeah, I just there was, even if he managed to do his lap, it would have been a dead lap anyway. So
I don't understand like this whole let me just park up and I think to be doing that in Q1 in a Ferrari, what are you doing? Just make sure you get through, mate. Just make sure you get through and sort yourself out instead of risking other people and laps, endangering people, and also just not even thinking about the consequences of causing that incident. Like, you're gonna get a penalty. You're gonna get a penalty. What's the point of this? He probably already knew that in Q2 and Q3 that I've got a penalty for that stupidness. But
and the thing with as well, it takes, obviously he got a penalty, so he went down to what was he, 10th or 11th on the grid?
He went behind Leclerc.
But that's at that point, it doesn't even matter what his performance was, because it kind of hides behind so the penalty hides how poor he was anyway. So it's almost like, well, and he didn't really have any real regrets or anything about it. It was just very odd. Like, you'd think he'd be more devastated. Wasn't able to put out even in Q1. If he went top in Q1, it's something, but nothing. And he didn't seem that gutted about it either, which was one of the odd things.
Ridiculous. And we'll speak about some other guys. As you guys can see, Martz is on the screen now. I'm going to ask him a question in a minute because I know he's on the phone call right now. Honestly, you're not on a phone call.
Sorry, no. Saka just scored a hat trick, bro. We stop. I'm sorry.
Okay. Welcome, Martz. Welcome, Martz. This is a good intro because we're about to ask some people to rise it, because there's certain people that are not getting into Q2. They're getting into Q3 when they should be getting into Q3. The first gentleman, Charles Leclerc. This is 2 weekends in a row now.
Failed wonder kid.
Failed wonder kid. This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me go. Firstly, before I go to you, Martz, let me go back to you, Laurence. Yeah. Is this an issue with him in mixed conditions and being able to generate heat in tires? Is this a problem now? Is he not adapting his driving style to possibly try to generate that heat so he can get the heat cycle in and kind of put that lap out? Because he seems like he's just dawdling around, whether it be on inters or softs when it is mixed conditions, and can't generate that heat in his tires to put a lap in.
It has to be. I think, obviously, if you compare him to those who are at the front, so you've got Max, obviously Fernando, they're very aggressive in how, obviously, if you only have to watch an on board of both of them to see, actually they literally just chuck it in at every corner. I think, and especially on the inters, it's a bit technical, but essentially it's not so much the tire, the temperature on the surface, it's the core of the tire, so that you can't just chuck it around one corner and it builds up heat. And I think Leclerc, that driving style is not conducive to that. But I think it's just a lack of being proactive. I think you look at Max, he's out there straight away, first one out, he's calling the shots. And I don't think you see that with him. I think that's, and in those conditions, you've got to be with the one being aggressive, pushing things forwards, whether that's being on the right tire at the right time, getting out early to obviously get your gap to do, the tire warming. He just doesn't. There isn't that intensity from him.
let's talk about Q2 in particular. Like, obviously, he did ask for softs quite early. He was one of those people saying, "Look, on that first out lap, he was like, let me put softs on. Let me put softs on." And they were like, "No, Verstappen's putting a lap in on inters, so you need to put a lap in on inters." And he couldn't put that lap in on inters because there were certain people that did get into Q3 on their inters, and he could not put a lap in. And then when he went to the softs, it was too late.
But that's where I think, obviously, he was demanding the softs initially, and that's I think probably because obviously he's going to be most aware of what he can get out of that. But if you're going to ask for it, don't just ask for it and go, oh, maybe softs. Like, basically bark at the engineers, get them on the car. No questions asked. And then obviously if he messes it up, then it's solely on his shoulders. It's like a bit of he's too passive with it. Like, and obviously, yes, Max is going to go out, get a banker on it. And in principle, it's obviously in those conditions, it's a great idea. That's what you would do. But given Q1 went how it went, and it didn't look particularly great on his sides, just go for it. I mean, we had that a bit last year. I think it was with George when I know in Q3 it's slightly different, but he went bold. He went, screw it, we're gonna go for the softs. Obviously, he wasn't ready at all, the track back then, but he went for it, dictated what the team were going to do. He doesn't do, and in those conditions, you have to do that. Even if your team is saying Max is set up, forget Max. He needs to do what he feels comfortable with. So if you go on, changeable conditions, you're already on the back foot. The second you are reacting, as opposed to being proactive, you're in trouble. And he does that basically week in, week out now.
Yeah, I heard an old saying basically when it's going from dry to wet, that's on your pit wall trying to tell you what's going on with the rain and so on. But when it's going from wet to dry, that's all on driver to dictate that strategy and see how you feel out there. Martz, there's another individual that's on a stinky streak right now. Sergio Perez, another Q2 exit. Tell me your thoughts on this guy, man. What's going on with this guy at the moment?
Another failed
championship contender to what? Another failed wonder kid.
No, I think he's really truly a failed wonder kid.
When it was at McLaren, he was wonder kid. When he first came in,
Yeah.
you were like, oh yeah, Checo. And then he just tried to kill Button. That was his whole MO.
Checo. What can I say? I mean, you've never really been good at Quali, but you think things will improve this season, especially with the car behind you. From what I recall, he's not very good at Canada as well. I think it's one of the few street tracks he's not very good at. Yeah, but I don't really know what to say for Checo. It's just like it's the same old story. Like he has a good run, then he goes on a bad run. He has a good run, and he goes on a bad run, and it's kind of you just want consistency, really. I know a lot of people. Yeah, I know a lot of people. They do what's it called? They were talking about him and Gasly, comparing him and Gasly. I mean, it's completely different. I mean, Gasly was just stinking it. Checo's actually done something worthy of being in the car, but it's the same old story, and it's the same cycle. Like, yeah, it's very predictable.
Yeah,
he's gonna go. He starts off well, then he's gonna be bad, and then next week next race Austria? He's gonna suddenly find pace again, and then Silverstone he'll probably do well. Spa he might do well. Then we're gonna come back from the summer break, and he's gonna stink it for 3-4 races. Then Mexico he'll rise it, and it's like, it's just boring.
All right. Do you know what? That's a good point, and I think a lot of people are kind of like. I've been trying to rattle my brain because I don't really know what people's expectations are for Checo Perez in that Red Bull, right? And what I'm trying to gather in my mind is people know this guy is not good at Quali. Red Bull signed this guy knowing he's not good at Quali, He was not good at quali at Racing Point. He was not good at quali prior to that. That's not his strength and skill set, but he excels in other things, right? And I would say Red Bull signing him, their fortunes have changed because they actually have a stable second driver in comparison to the scenarios they had before, where Max was literally just throttling whatever teammate he had. And they would lose confidence and their race space, they'll get lapped by Max. You're not seeing Perez getting lapped by Max every weekend. You know what I mean? What I'm trying to say is do you just take the highs of Sergio Perez because he's an extremely inconsistent driver, but when he does put it all together, he puts it all together, right? And he gets those wins and he gets those podiums. Do you take that knowing, or rather you would want somebody that's more of a risk, somebody that's more maybe a challenge to Max Verstappen, maybe what do you mean? What's the kind of word that I'm trying to use? Maybe disturbing the kind of relationship that Max is the number one in the team.
Does Max need to be pushed? That's the question. Max doesn't need to be pushed.
I don't think so.
Exactly. So Checo's fine.
This is what I think. A lot of outside pressure, right, to say, "Oh, get rid of Checo." But for Red Bull, why would they need to get rid of him?
He's. I mean, shakily he'll get you P2. Like Bottas was shakily getting you P2. But I don't think until there's a real threat on the scene that Red Bull need to really get rid of him. Maybe next year, if Aston Martin and Mercedes step it up again and they start gaining on Red Bull, maybe that's when questions need to be asked. But again, we saw Max won the title. Like, I know what happened in Abu Dhabi. There was a lot of unspeakable things and a lot of rule bending that happened in Abu Dhabi. But again, another reason why Max was able to do it was because of Checo. And if you can get a teammate like that, you don't want someone like George Russell in the car. He's just going to be like, well, fuck my teammate. I'm going to do what I want. Like,
let me come to you, Laurence, as well, but I'll bring you in on this, yeah? There's scenarios, let's say, for example, let's say 2021, because there's a lot of discussion about Bottas and Perez and who's the better second driver. Bottas weren't around in 2021.
Yeah.
He was not backing it. Any situation, he was not there to back it. But at least Perez was there to back Max.
Yeah. That, I mean, bro, how many times did you see Max creeping up on Valtteri, and we're sitting there going, go on. And within half a lap, the move's done. There's not even a defense. You've seen enough. You've seen enough from Checo.
France was egregious. I'm sorry.
Bro,
Every time I remember France, it's just egregious. I don't care. Like, your tires were really bad and you wanted a 2-stop. You could have put up a defense and hold off Max for what? One corners.
Bro, it was one lap. That was it. Just park it on the apex. Just sit there, and that's it. I mean, that was all. And yeah, I mean, but I don't think Boss had any desire to obviously help out in any capacity. But I think that's why ultimately Checo works. And until I think I agree, obviously, with Martz was saying, until they've got competition from other teams, what's the point? Why would you change it? Perez picks up the odd win here and there. Obviously, if you're a Checo fan out there, obviously it would bother you quite a lot, because if you look at it just solely on an individual basis, he's stinking out the gaff in terms of quali, but also I would say in that car you should really at least get a podium basically every race. But from a team perspective, from Max's perspective, it's the perfect situation. You've got someone that will not ever really compete with you. You're so far ahead that even his worst days are still 6th, 5th, 4th. So he's still taking points away from a team that might, so from Aston Martin or Mercedes, who may potentially be within 20, 30 points, if obviously when both their drivers are working well. That's it. And also, I think the one for me personally is there's so much discourse around Checo, but I just think is it worth it? How is it? Why is it a surprise?
Why are we talking about
Why
Checo?
is it a surprise? Yeah,
why are we talking about a guy that wants to race? You want to race?
That's it. That's it. I was just thinking, like, what is there? There's nothing to talk about.
It's the same thing Bottas had, innit? pre-2021, when Bottas was there, 2017 to 2020. I mean, apart from the 1 year where he finished outside the top two, like, would you really change Bottas? Everyone was saying, "Oh, when we're coming into the season, should we change Bottas?" And a lot of people said, "Why disrupt it? Like, it works." Obviously, no one knew kind of the beast that Red Bull had, that will actually challenge for the Mercedes, but it would have worked. It worked, and it was working before. And I think Checo's in a similar situation. It's working at the moment, but until you get competition and you need him to step up, if he's not stepping up, that's when you probably need to get rid. Maybe this year, with all the teams getting better, it's a good evaluation whether to see to get rid of Checo. It may break a contract early, basically.
I don't think that. So I don't think, because a lot of people are mentioning Valtteri Bottas is a better second driver than Sergio Perez. I just based on qualifying. So there's like, oh look, Valtteri had a Q3 streak entry. He got into Q3 how many times? You're in a bloody Merc. Of course you need to get in Q3. You should.
Valtteri was just more
and
consistent.
but then his race pace is rubbish. I would rather have somebody with race pace as a teammate to back it than somebody that's just slapping it in Q3 and then just dropping like a stone.
Until 2021, Valtteri was just consistent. He was consistent with what he was doing. He wasn't doing anything more than a 7 out of 10. He was like, oh yeah, on an odd occasion, he'll give you a 10, like Russia 2020? And he like had a big brain moment and he managed to win that race. But I don't see, like, he's just consistent. I think with Checo, you get a lot of highs, but then he get a lot of lows. And it's like that variable kind of throws people off.
But Checo's highs are way higher. Look what
he will beat Max on pure pace.
Look at on his resume, we've already got he's held Lewis off. He's obviously, I mean, you got back obviously Abu Dhabi, as we know. Turkey, I know, was it in the year that 2021 was that this? Yeah, so the year obviously when they're in the white Red Bulls.
Oh yeah, that's 2021, yeah.
And he held, and obviously Lewis sent it on him, and they were going side by side for a couple of corners, and he kept the position. Bottas, I cannot honestly tell you one race in 4 or 5 years where he stuck it on another driver whether it was obviously 2017 to 2019. When did you ever? You cannot picture a race where he held someone up, or he backed the pack up, or he took a position off someone. There was never that. So Checo's already got that, and now he doesn't actually even have to do it because he doesn't actually. They're so far ahead. He doesn't actually have to race anyone. He's racing literally himself and his teammate, and he's going to lose that battle literally 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, he's going to lose it. So why is there such discourse around it? He's going to lose anyway. You know, there's certain situations like with Valtteri Bottas where, what was it, like 2018? Like, bro, your teammate won the championship. You're fifth in the championship. Lewis won the championship. You're fifth. You're behind Kimi Räikkönen. And Max
he didn't even get a win in that season. Bro, Ricardo and Max got 2 wins each, and he still didn't get a win. Even Kimi got a win.
So already this season is better than the 2018 Valtteri Bottas season.
Yeah,
Perez has already got a better season.
And that's obviously, and I mean we probably should make it clear we're not even rating Perez that highly, but that's the level, and he's surpassed it. Simple as that.
I don't want to hear no revisionism about Valtteri Bottas, because we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that as a community. I'll stop that. I'll sacrifice myself because that guy was a bum. We're not going to do that. Do you know what? I will never ever say Valtteri Bottas is better than Perez. That's insane. That's insane. Do not do that. Let's not do that. Valtteri Bottas had his time. You know what I mean? And you know what's so funny? I reckon Perez is going to elapse how much wins Valtteri Bottas got in the Merc. He probably will. So
what? I think Bottas got 10, was it? 10,
yeah,
10 or
Perez
9?
Got 6 right now.
No, 9. Isn't it 9?
9.
No, he's got 10. He's got 10.
So was Checo's on 4? So yeah,
Checo's on 6.
He didn't hit double digits in the Merc. In the Merc, he didn't hit double digits unless he got a win at Williams.
No, I'm looking at it right now. Wikipedia, 10 wins. Valtteri Bottas.
Oh, I thought it was 9.
No.
Because he got 4 in 2019, didn't he?
He won Turkey.
Yeah.
2021.
2020 must have won a couple, and then 2017 I think he got 3. So yeah.
and Sergio's already got 6, and he's in a rocket ship.
He's surpassing that.
All Sergio has to do is have 1 clean quali and max the engine to blow up or something, and then he's getting an automatic whip. Simple
Yeah,
as.
no more street tracks for Checo.
There's some Singapore's waiting, man. Don't worry.
Oh yeah,
He's
Singapore.
gonna get a customary where he put Leclerc on the manners.
Oh, sorry, I forgot Singapore and Vegas. He might put on the show
Singapore,
then.
Vegas, you know what I mean?
And then
Straight line. Have you seen how long that straight line is in Vegas? My friend.
That's mad.
He's gonna eat people.
All I want for Checo is to win Mexican Grand Prix. You can't retire and not win your home GP for me. Like, you have to win your home GP, especially in that car.
All right, let's see if Max allows that. All right. You know what I mean? Another guy that we've ignored is Stroll. What's going on, man? I'll come to you first, Laurence. What's going on?
Right, on his home patch in front of
Family and
in front of Daddy Stroll. What on earth is that?
What did Daddy Stroll say before the weekend started? Yeah,
Bro.
double podium. Get out of here. You know your son.
Bro, and he suck as well. Like, what does he do? Surely he's got to sack his son. He's just got to, like, pat him on the head and say, bro, it's like, buy him a seat at another team or something. What is that? Like, just and there's no explanation either. There's nothing offered in terms of, and this is it. These are his conditions. This is what's even more embarrassing, is this is what he's known for in terms of the only, I guess, skill that people say he has, and yet on his home track, and it's nowhere to be seen. And clearly the car's working, because obviously we saw what Fernando was doing. And we're not even saying to do too much. Just top 7 even would have been decent enough. He should have been 7th. He let Williams. That's
just
it.
rise it, man. What I don't understand. Like,
I think he's just struggling with these cars, man. These cars are not for him. With the old cars we had before, like the 20 before the reg change, he used to cook from time to time. But he's not, like, since we got these ones, he's not cooking at all. Like, nothing is cooking with him. Maybe I don't know if Fernando's telling the wrong tricks, whatever. Purposely doing
like
things.
Baku. Oh yeah, change the diff. Man nearly binned it immediately.
Yeah, man. He's telling him to press the NOS button too early and everything. So I don't know. There's something there, and I think Stroll just needs to sit down, maybe over the summer break, and just maybe work in a simulator if Aston Martin have one. I don't know. And
I can. Do you know what's so funny? Yeah, when obviously Aston Martin brought some upgrades and so on, and they said we're going to change the car to fit more Stroll's driving style, and that kind of worked in Spain because he did quite well in Spain, you know. But the second we go back to this condition, this guy's pirouetting all over the gaff. I don't know what's going on with him. So he did seem to have some race pace towards the end of the race, but it's too late, man. Like, you need to be up there, man. You need to be where Russell was and all these guys. But yeah, we're gonna have a conversation about Stroll. I don't think he's ever gonna lose his seat. So that kind of conversation about he should lose his seat, that's never gonna happen. That's just
so they can never obviously, you know, we know what their ambitions are. How is there a one-man band now? So how do they ever compete for a title with someone that's scoring? He's only got like 20-something points in it. He's got some ludicrous.
They'll start giving 10th place at 25 points. Don't worry, Laurence Stroll's got that pattern.
No, what? Do you know? I see the vision, of Laurence Stroll. Yeah, Laurence Stroll is just trying to make a rocket ship in the sense that he's no other car is near him, so his son cannot fail to win a championship. You know, that kind of scenario where they're so far ahead, even if it's like on an Eddie Guerrero light sheet steel thing, they're gonna build a car that's gonna be way better than everybody else. And then if their teammate is obviously in the title running, then you're gonna see some shenanigans in that scenario. Because why would you build upgrades that will fit your son better instead of making for Fernando go faster? Think about the logic. I read the in between the lines. Think about it, because for example, certain other teams, they just build the car to go as fast as possible, right? They don't fit a particular driving style or try to like shape it towards one particular driver, apart from, let's say, Red Bull. But for you to say, oh, no, we need to bring it towards our son a little bit. I don't know what Laurence is cooking in that factory, but he's like, yo, listen, Fernando's expendable.
But Fernando's going to be the one that wins them the title. And that's the thing. They've geared
We
the
don't
car
care about that. Stroll don't care about that. Everybody's being naive. You don't care about Aston Martin winning the title. He cares about his son winning the title.
But how's his son going to be? Obviously, he was currently.
He got his son a seat at Williams by buying Williams a wind tunnel. Do you think he cares? He bought a whole team a wind tunnel to get his son a seat. I don't know what Williams are doing with that.
So what has he got to spend? Or what has he got to do to get his son? Because he can build the fastest car. The guy, even a car that's obviously probably second quickest, still ain't up there. So what does he have to make? What does he have to? What rules does he have to bend in order to get his son to win a title?
So someone said Racing Point 2020 is looking spooky. That could have
Weather
been a
machine. He's
championship
got to get weather machine or something in.
Someone said the Racing Point 2020 is spooky because that could have been a championship car. Nobody knows about it. That was the pink Mercedes, but it had Perez and Stroll behind it, so it had way more potential than it should have. We'll talk about the stars of Quali. Alexander Albon. What a guy. Listen, we're gonna have to respect Albon. Let me put the banner up. Let's talk about some wet weather hoopers. Yeah, Albon out there, first guy. He didn't even put inners on in Q2. He just said, "Fuck it, I'm going straight slicks." Cooking in a Williams, cooked all weekend. Laurence, I know you got a big fan. Look at you got the guy in the background. No, Martz, I'm gonna let you speak on Albon, innit? Because Albon has been disparaged on this pod previously in early years.
Don't worry, man. I was there and I could hear all of that in the background. I was just waiting for the opportunity.
Bring back that Albon. What's the Albon award? Albon's a good driver and he's comfortable at Williams. I think he likes that family environment and it seems to work for him. And maybe bringing in James Vowles has helped a lot of things. Who is decent at strategy. I wouldn't say he's the best, but he's a good strategist. Yeah, well, he does have a few howlers behind him, but the going on the softs, I think that would have been something they would have discussed, and even before the session started, really. And Albon just cooked on it, and he picked the perfect time to go out. I think everyone had done their run on the inters, or about 7 cars had done their run on the inters, and then he went out and just put in a good lap, and then he went quicker again once he found the sweet spots. And was it Anthony Davidson who done the review of his lap, and he was just saying like, if Albon had went millimeters to the left or millimeters to the right, it would have cost him so much time and it would have cooled the tires down so quickly. But he got everything pit like perfect, and that's something you expect from like the top drivers. And to be able to do that, he has his moments. He always has one or 2 moments a season where you're like, wow, and this is one of those moments. And I think, yeah. And he's had good qualities before, and we know also that Williams is that straight light speed. That Williams is just something else as well. So, yeah.
Laurence, is it time that Albon gets his respect in Formula One?
Yeah, we need to put in a new award. But obviously,
we've got a new award.
Yeah, for his name, man.
Retired, man.
I think so. I mean, he's to be fair, I've always been a fan, but he's been biding his time. I think Martz is right. Williams is the perfect setup for him. And actually his driving style kind of complements what they're about as well. Obviously we'll come to the race later, but I think in Quali what he showed is precisely what Leclerc did not show, and it's just conviction in what he believes in, what he believes in doing. You know, it didn't even hesitate. Straight on the softs, no mucking about. When it mattered, top the timesheets. And I mean, you got to look at. I just had a quick look. I think at the time he set his and basically by the time Q2 finished, I think only Max and Lando set kind of representative times, and he's 3.5 tenths on Max. And I don't care if it was he did it a minute before and maybe the conditions slightly changed. That Williams is not 3.5 tenths behind or ahead. So to put that gap it's not going to be, obviously it's nothing in the grand scheme of things. It's nothing because he didn't even do a run in Q3, but that essentially got him his race result. And in those moments, that's what you're looking for. That's what Sainz, for example, didn't do in Q1. You're looking for something in those moments. This is where the drivers really matter. It doesn't, as he's shown, it doesn't matter about the car then. And to me, if you're looking at, I don't think you should return to Red Bull. But if you're in that field and you're looking at next year for your driver lineup, you need to find something that sets the driver aside. That's what you look for. That's the moment.
I think we need to be careful when we talk about Albon because there is the tendency to overrate him. Like,
whoa, what's going on there?
No, I think you could. There's a tendency you can do that because when you're good, you're good, and you know it. He's had his chance to show if he's good, and he hasn't shown it. I think he's in a situation.
He was young though.
Where, it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters, and it hasn't changed. He's in a situation right now where he has zero pressure on him. If you put a little bit of pressure on him, how's that going to affect him? Like he's basically a development driver. He's just driving to develop the car, and that's what he's going to be doing this year and next year.
What car did he develop when he was at RB? What car did he develop at RB? Everybody forgets.
Well, yeah, exactly. He helped develop last year's car and basically this year's car. Yeah.
While he was doing Silverstone reenactments.
But then but that's what I mean.
While winning DTM.
That's what I mean. You're a good driver who can show where you need to develop the car. It's like, yeah, but it's not a pressure situation. Look, Mick is apparently doing good work at Mercedes. According to them, he's doing. According to Mercedes,
I'm gonna have to put stop to this.
Listen. This is what the team has come out and said. This is what Lewis has come out and said. I can only respect it. Yeah, they said Mick went back. He done all his good work. It's a no pressure situation. But when you're actually behind that wheel, and like, for example, if someone needs a seat next year, and like, look at Albon has to fight for his life. What type of Albon are we going to see then? We're not going to see the same one, and he doesn't show these performances week in, week out. I think he has, as I said, he has highlights this season where like John Joe Shelby. John Joe Shelby will stink most of the season.
Insane, man. What is this rant, man?
But then he'll score a 40-yard banger.
What the?
No, but it's true. John Joe Shelby, everyone used to talk about him like he's this great midfielder stuck at Newcastle. But because he used to score a 40-yard banger every 10 games, and everyone will be like, "Oh, he's a great midfielder." It's like, no, he's not. He's very mid. I'm telling you, this is Albon's 40-yard banger.
Bro, you just compared Albon to Shelby, bro. Oh
we got a question that relates to this from Mr. Polo at Mr. Polo. Which team do you think will try to get Albon at the end of the season?
So I know this gentleman very well.
Nottingham Forest.
No.
Ferrari, bro.
No, there's no way. There's no way.
No. Realistically, no. If
there's realistic,
do you know what? Right, Gasly gets all this prop, right? But obviously, he got a race win. Take that out of the equation, right? And he's got he's been in better cars. But if I look at the last year and a half, there isn't what Albon just did in the Williams there, right? Obviously holding literally half the entire field up, and it's not the first time he's done this. Is the thing, it's not the first time. We had Spa last year, we had Australia last year, we had was it Bahrain or Australia this year? he is obviously now, he is literally the guy for put on a set of tires, 55 laps to go, and he manages it. And that's one of the hardest skills to learn. That's why, obviously, as Martz says, a development driver, that's a quality that you can't lose. And you've got so many teams that aren't going to get race wins. They're trying to develop the car. There's a team in orange that could have help with developing their car. I'm not saying he should go to them, but there's so many teams that want that. And Alpine, for example, they ain't got two drivers that know how to develop a car. That's probably, I think, where they should look at for him is in that kind of 4th to 6th spot. I don't think he's ever going to obviously reach a Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari level.
I personally think he'll do well at Mercedes when Hamilton retires.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's a good spot for him to go. Him and George, they're already good friends, and he's not going to challenge George. So, and he's only going to make the car better. And we all know how George likes when other people do the work for him, and he benefits from it. So it's like a match made in heaven, isn't it?
All right, enough about Albon. There was some other people that performed quite well in the wet. I'm trying to have this general discussion of who's that guy when it's mixed conditions. Who's that guy? Who's that guy that can drive in the wet on slicks currently in F1? Because we saw a couple of examples there. There's 3 people.
Yeah, and this is I'm not including Max. I'm not including Max.
Can't say him.
No. Why are you not including Max?
Because that guy. I'm sorry,
he's doing a madness, you know.
He was, his car was all over the place. Every time he's like, you can't see me because my camera's off, but he was just like wiggling. His car was wiggling constantly. He couldn't find the line right. Like Albon found the line perfect. Max wasn't. Max was like, he was going into one section, and I think the fact
we're not going to
his car is.
There's too much evidence. There's too much evidence of Max driving in the rain.
But as Laurence said, the car worked. There was 3/10 difference, 3.5 tenths difference. If Max got a perfect lap and he was able to do it well, he would be what? Should be at least 7 tenths, 7 tenths ahead with that car. But he couldn't. I kept watching it, and it was like it was wiggling all over the place. And I'm like, he's coming out of turn 8. He's wiggling. I don't get it.
He's not going to go full beans. He's not trying to bend the car, man. He knows he wants to win the race, man. Come on, be serious.
As I say, you're still doing a lot of shaky. You're doing a Harlem shake, and there's no reason for it.
Laurence, you said 3.
So I wouldn't include Max simply because I think it's so obvious. We've seen. Actually, I think Martz has a point. Maybe not so much in changeable. It's more Max is brilliant in the wet, and obviously brilliant in the dry. And then
changes.
But there is a obviously he's got such a brilliant car. It's not really like he could have all those shakes and still be clear. So it doesn't. Yeah. That's why I'm not including him. But I'd put Lando number 1. For every single time there's changeable conditions, he's there or thereabouts. Even if the car is obviously at the moment not great at all, there's always something that catches your eye with him. Lewis and Alonso, and then a shout out to Hülkenberg as well. I think that's one that goes under the radar. I think he obviously we haven't seen it. Obviously he's only come back, but I think even in the past, obviously before that, he was quite impressive in changeable conditions, relevant to obviously what he could do in the car that he was in. So those would probably be the 4 that I would say stand out.
Yeah, Martz. Any other candidates?
I don't know if I would include Lewis anymore in that top 3.
Whoa! This is a great. This is from.
No, you don't know me. I'm a devout Hamilton fan.
Hamilton fan club.
Like, but I don't. Listen, obviously he's the greatest driver of all time, but I don't know. I think he should have known to take the. He's like Sainz, like Leclerc should have got into the sauce earlier. He's like, again, he's been very passive. He's been very passive.
That's the problem from before. I spoke about that as well. Like, I think he trusts Mercedes too much.
Yep.
Yeah, like George was on the sauce from early, and he just didn't. I don't get it, man. Like that's what I would say. I wouldn't include him in the top three just because of that passiveness, waiting for Bono to say, "Yeah, pit and come in for the softs." Just say, "Look, the track feels good. Let's go on softs." Everyone else is on softs. He wants to hear, "Oh, everyone else is on softs," and then go on to softs.
Rather than
just
being, let's say, for example, like your Albon or like your Lando. Lando's a maniac.
yeah.
Lando straight away is like, oh, what's next on?
And it's how
Any scenario.
you see, and we saw it. This is how what happened and why he didn't win Hungary in 21, because instead of making this decision of thinking I can't start on these inters, let me come in for the for tires.
Yeah.
Like everybody else did behind him, like everyone else was making the decision for themselves because you can't talk on a formation lap. So everyone else had to say, I'm coming in for tires. And everyone else just did that. And I know some drivers were like, they didn't make up that decision. They kind of just followed what everyone else was doing. But it was like Lewis went out on the inters and ended up costing him the race. And I think
I don't think it
he's
cost
very
him
passive.
the race.
It did cost him the race. If Lewis had gone in, yeah, and as I know people say, oh, but where the garage is, he's still coming out, what, at least P10?
Do you know what it is? Do you know what it
P7,
is?
P13? And he wins that race.
The only team that was spot on in Q3, like proper spot on, was Red Bull. Because they said, Max, get out there now. Like the second the timer went, he was in the front of the queue. Certain people were dawdling, not thinking rain's going to come. Yeah. So the people that put in those bank laps at the beginning, like Lando had a good idea, but Lando bottled his lap. Because he was out there early, but he bottled that lap. And it was about the decision of the kind of your team being on point and telling you need to be out there immediately. And I don't think Mercedes did that.
And I wouldn't put that down on Lewis. I agree. I think he's got more passive over time, and there's too much trust in the team. I think he's used to the fact obviously they were successful for so long. Every call he could basically outdrive every bad call as well that they made. Now he can't do that now. So obviously he got very lucky in Q2. Literally only just made it through because Leclerc and Perez decided to do a clown show instead. But I think you come down to who would you want, in a race. We saw obviously Russia 21. Lewis did the complete opposite, where actually he nailed it. He knew exactly when the crossover period was.
Yeah, there's too much evidence. There's too much.
That's the thing. I think he
as well. I wouldn't agree with that. I feel like Russia, he waited for the team to tell him to come in.
No, he didn't want to come in. He didn't want to come in.
Yeah, he didn't.
Was the same as Lando. And they when they do that call where they force you to box, that's what they did.
Exactly. Lewis could have been like Lando, slipping all over the place, but he didn't want to. So I think, I don't know, man.
I think he's that. No. I've seen too much in the McLaren days. I've seen too much. Come on.
Yeah, but that's
I'm kind of saying now.
You think about the old days. The old days. Yeah, I'm talking about right now. Okay. It's like there's certain parts of Hamilton's skill that's going to drop off, and it's not surprising at all, especially when you've been so dominant and you're coming back to this basically, and you're struggling behind. So it will. You're not in your prime anymore.
Let's talk about the race, because he did look like he was in his prime. It was the 2007 run back, smoked Alonso on the line. This is you saying that he's out of form. Don't look like it to me. Not looking like that to me. And look, a great race start to me. And he had the reactions there.
I said there's elements of his race that would have fallen off, not everything. I think
Martz is he's waiting to get caught by Team LH. He's waiting.
I think Lewis in a race, there's no one better than Lewis. But maybe Max is on his level, but I don't think there's anyone that is close to Lewis. I think Quali, there's a bit to be decided, and there's other aspects as well. As I said, in terms of that, the decision making, where he's kind of fallen off a bit. And as Laurence said before, when they were dominant, he could outdrive bad calls. Now he can't.
Laurence, I'm going to come back to you first about the race. We had obviously Nico Hulkenberg got a penalty, had to drop back. So We had Max on P1, I think Alonso P2, and Hamilton P3. Talk us through those early stages of the race. That little inter-battle between. Actually, it was throughout the whole race. A little 2007 run back between Fernando and Lewis. They're all chummy again, isn't it?
Well, pardon me, if anyone remembers Turn 1 in Canada 2007, right? That's a long time ago. But Lewis did basically the same thing, and Alonso tried to send it out of desperation and basically dropped about 10 places backwards. I was kind of hoping that would happen again, but obviously he's a lot smarter this time. But I think Lewis, one thing I think he's almost having to relearn is how aggressive to be at the start. Because I think last year he was like, and especially in 2020, super passive at the start. But now he's obviously qualifying more in the upper midfield, not on the front row. He's become a lot more aggressive off the start, so it's really nice move. But Alonso didn't really see it. I don't think he bothered to fight it too hard because ultimately he had the underlying pace. And I mean the move back on Lewis. It's funny because at the time I think Karun on Sky was saying, oh, he's just kind of towing him along, tagging him along. And then when he obviously got in the DRS, I thought, right, he's just gonna, and they were on boards. I just thought, right, he's just gonna follow him through, come right up to him, and just keep going. Obviously, because the race was only, I think, not even a quarter gone then. But to chuck it like he did, it was almost overly aggressive. Like there was no need for Fernando to dive down the inside like that. So I think there's definitely a bit of, as there always is with Fernando, there's definitely a bit of psychology going on there. I think even at this day and age when they're in their 30s and 40s, to put a marker down, just say, right, because ultimately Alonso could get second place, and I do actually think that's going to come down to them too. I'm not sure Checo's actually going to keep on to P2 in the championship, so it was really nice to see, and I actually liked actually the bit where, right, Lewis would put a purple, then Fernando would put a purple. It was just constant back and forth. I think that's where we're going to see the best of Lewis, which we haven't probably seen in a while. In that, when he had to go with Max 2 years ago, he just got bullied basically. Whereas now he can kind of be aggressive and a bit more free because he hasn't got as much to lose. Which I like to see because we haven't seen, I don't think, since his McLaren days. So, and obviously perfect track for it as well. And it probably says a lot that was the thing that had the most attention above all. And you got Max, who wasn't even that far ahead. It wasn't even like he was sailing off in the distance.
Yeah, it was
This guy
like
was only
4
5
seconds ahead,
seconds
isn't
ahead.
it?
Yeah, and literally you didn't hear a thing. And I think that goes to show, obviously, ultimately, who people still ultimately care about. It's still them two. 20 years later, it's still them two. I really hope we can have a race where them two are going for the win, because I think that's where you're going to see the real shithousery come out from Fernando. You ain't seen it yet.
No, we saw a little bit. We saw a little bit in the pit lane.
Oh yeah, well that was crazy. The extra, yeah.
Even Toto was doing the motion that.
I love that, but that's bro. I love that. That's what, like, we need to have that. I'm tired of too much niceties. Be nice after the race, whatever. But when you're on track, we need to be ruthless with each other, but in obviously a safe way, not trying to land on people's heads.
Yeah, Martz, I'm gonna ask you a question. What do you prefer? Do you prefer Lewis
He
versus
binned it
Alonso?
for no reason.
No, I'm gonna ask you a question. Yeah, Lewis versus Alonso or Max versus Lewis? What do you prefer?
Lewis versus Alonso.
I thought you hate Alonso the most.
Oh yeah, but it's like
More entertaining?
Charles Xavier versus Magneto. It's like you can't. You need that type of rivalry.
Lewis saw him, yeah, and he's like, "I got my joy back. I'm battling
exactly.
Alonso again."
Yeah, the thing is, one thing about Alonso is Alonso can race, and yeah, he does. He has a shithousery moments, and he'll do certain backhanded things, but he can race. And when you're going up another racing driver, that's great, and you enjoy it. It was good racing yesterday. Going up against Max, as Hamilton does, especially when it's Hamilton, it's life or death, bro. Like you're literally there, like someone could die. Max will just crash it into you. Max is doing this, Max is doing that, and it's just not fun. It's not fun.
Brazil
But
2022,
watching,
you just said run it back.
yeah, it was.
Don't know what's happened there. Have I cut out?
Maybe the hateration has got Martz.
Oh, Martz, you're on mute. What's going on, mate? All right. Sorry about that, people. Yeah, it's good to see it. Do you know what? Yeah.
So I was just saying, I think the thing about Alonso, as I said, it's that you're you know how you need every hero has their villain. Like Batman has a Joker. It's that you need each other. You need each other, and that's what it is.
You're trying to say Max was Penguin. He's like, nah, man, this don't feel the same, man. Where's Joker at?
Exactly.
I need that.
You know, Batman, you say enjoy that.
It's good to see, man. It's good to see the little the rivalry is back. We're seeing two hoopers up there fighting for like podiums, not like in a little midfield scrap, because we haven't seen these guys battle for a very, very long time. And I was actually having to think about this before recording the pod, yeah. Like how the perception of Alonso has kind of changed to everybody. Because last year or the year before, when he was in midfield cars, nobody would consider him like better than the guys that were actually competing for podiums, right? So they wouldn't say, Alonso's not better than Charles. If you said last year Alonso's better than Charles, people would laugh at you, because obviously Charles is winning races, right? But the second now Alonso's in a car that fights for podiums and wins, not what wins for podiums anyway, people are seeing the quality. Look at the consistency. He's been on podiums like 90% of the time this season. So, like, we're actually seeing the quality. And I think Mercedes and Aston Martin are quite similar right now, because look, Mercedes brought their upgrade in Monaco, and now Aston Martin have brought their upgrade, and now they've brought it back level, because we thought, look, Mercedes made that jump in Spain. They should be up there now. They're going to catch Red Bull. But now Aston Martin bring their upgrade in Canada. Look where we are. They're back level again. So it's going to be a little arms race between them two. And it's going to be very interesting. But there is another team that I believe have the second fastest car, and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that's Ferrari. Yeah. Like, I think Ferrari have the second fastest car. I don't care. I know nobody's running this narrative, but I'm running it. Yeah. They have the second fastest car. Helmut Marko said, yeah, he was happy that they didn't qualify well, because they would have challenged Max on race pace and would have been going for the win. What is going on at Ferrari?
I think it's track for. I'm not so sure it's the second fastest outright. I think it's track dependent. I think definitely at Canada they would have been, because their race pace in the practice runs was as good, if not better, than Max's. So I think they would have had a chance, and obviously that just shows you the level, or the lack of a decent level, that their drivers were at. But I think it's track dependent. I think you're going to see in Austria that's not going to be the case. A lot of straight lines, 90-degree corners. That I don't think that they're going to be up there. Silverstone potentially, but yeah, but that's the thing. But
your upgrades are working.
I'd agree. I mean, they're not having a tire. Obviously, they had tire warm-up problems in the changeable conditions, but you saw obviously with the strategy that they were able to go super long on tires and not have any tire issues in comparison to what they did. Obviously pre-upgrades. So definitely, I think. But I don't think the gap between them, Mercedes, Mercedes, or Aston is honestly more than a tenth or two here and there. And that's where obviously then it really comes down to the drivers. And well, some people saying they had the best driver partnership at one stage, but I mean, at the moment,
people were saying it was better than Russell and Hamilton. I remember that.
Well, then definitely not
A
right
while
now.
ago.
Obviously, and neither of them are better than Alonso. So, like if you put Alonso in that car, he will make it look like the second fastest car, no matter the track. I don't think they would. So I think the car might well be, but in the hands of drivers that are not second best, it's not going to get there. So it'll be on the
Are they
on-track
getting
here
found
and
out a bit? Because obviously the gap between the third best team and the second best team was quite
Yeah.
large last year.
Yeah.
And obviously it was just Red Bull and Ferrari at the beginning part, and now they've done the tire test now in I think Barcelona. They did like crazy tire test, and now the tire deck looking good, so the tires are not just dying in the race. They actually cooked on strategy in Canada and gained a lot of places, and we're not that far behind Alonso and Hamilton in that regard. But are they? I kind of want to explore the fact, why is this team fourth in the constructors when they have the second fastest car on some of the circuits? They like, look, Charles Leclerc got pole. We're not talking about like we're not talking about a car that's like been absolutely nowhere in certain races. It's just driver issues, right?
It's driver strategy. Two people driving the car and the people obviously talking to those drivers. That's where it is, because their reliability is not actually that bad either, if I recall.
Bar Bahrain,
yeah, which
where Charles Leclerc was absolutely miles ahead anyway. Compared, obviously Perez and Max went down the road, but literally Charles Leclerc was miles ahead of Alonso and Hamilton and so on. So there is a narrative here that Ferrari are good and they're not making the most of it. I spoke about the Monaco, the bottled pole. That's a bottled pole. I don't care. That's a bottled pole from them. That's a win gone, because nothing really happened in the race where the win was jeopardized. You know what I'm saying? And now we're looking at a scenario where Helmut Marko, one of your ops, is saying, oh, if they qualified on the front two rows, they would have won the race because they had faster pace than us. And Max was slow in the race in comparison to what they usually are. What's the problem at Ferrari, Martz? Why are they fourth in the constructors in the second fastest car? Well, I'm saying that. Anyway.
Bro, I'm tired of talking about Ferrari. I can't.
They're the face of the Le Mans winners. They're the face of motorsport.
Bro, how many times can we say the same thing over and over and over again?
Yeah,
like,
but
it's not. It didn't start at Bonotto. It didn't start at Bonotto. It's like, one sec. Sorry, yeah, it didn't start at Bonotto, man, at all. It just they're just so bad. They are so bad.
Is it the drivers right now? Because I would say they bottled.
It's everything.
A double
Mahad, it's everything. It's everything. It's not
they
just
cooked
the
on
drivers.
strategy on Sunday.
It's the whole thing. The whole team screams incompetence from the top to the drivers.
Stage 4.
It's
every part of the body is infected. It's done.
You've taken out the team principle. Nothing's changed. You changed the team principle how many times in the past 10 years? How many was it 4?
Bring back Arriva Bene. Get him off them Juventus charges.
You changed it 4 times in the last 10 years, and we've seen absolutely nothing. Bonotto came in last year. He built a very good car. It obviously wasn't good enough, but then your drivers are just doing dumb stuff all the time as well. I don't know if you talked about it before I came on, but Sainz.
Yeah, before Sainz, we spoke about Mr. Impeding Sainz.
Bloody hell, man! It's just, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah, as I said, you can't make excuses for them no more. They really have to fix up everything. We're talking about from the top to the drivers. They are. They're a perfect embodiment of Manchester United. Man United are cancer from the top to the players, and that is exactly what
I'm loving United slander.
It doesn't matter how much what you take out from United and what you replace. They always end up doing the same thing, and it just doesn't work. And Ferrari are exactly the same. It must be a thing with legacy teams.
No, do you know what? I think if they had Lewis and Alonso, they'd cook. They would have a race.
That's because Lewis and Alonso are good drivers that will get you out of situations. Like we've seen this multiple times. Lewis and Alonso.
We've seen Alonso in his Ferrari stint saving them time and time again.
Exactly. We've seen Alonso when he was at Alpine. Alpine used to make some dumb decisions. Alonso used to get them out or bail them out of it. Lewis bailed Mercedes out how many times? But at the end of the day, it's still, I think, not even those two can say Ferrari. Because Ferrari's incompetence just knows no bounds. It knows no bounds at all. They're just bad.
Yeah. Talking about incompetence.
16 years. 16 years.
Oh man, they need Ross Brawn and Todd back. That's the only way they can succeed, man. You know what I mean? They need them guys to come back in the fold, man, because it's looking scary. Talk about incompetence. George Farage.
He binned it for no reason.
I know you're itching to speak about this much. I'm gonna come to Laurence first, yeah. Funny enough, there was a lie detector. Obviously, they did a lie detector with the Mercedes drivers, and they released George's one. And George, well, I don't think it's controversial, but I think some people think it's controversial that he said he thinks he's faster than Lewis, and the lie detector said, "Yeah, that's not a lie." So he genuinely believes he's faster than Lewis. And then a couple laps into the race, just bins the car, just smashes the wall, just finito. Like there's actually footage now that when he pulled up into the pit box, when he got finally into the pit box, the wheel just carried on rolling down the pit lane and nearly hit somebody. That's how destroyed the car was. Is this something that? Because people are saying that obviously I don't think he's been labeled that he's a crasher, that he's quite reckless, he's quite overly aggressive in his driving. But do you think people should start looking at that and say he's not as polished as people think he is?
Firstly, I better see this guy down the Uxbridge polls first thing tomorrow morning. This guy needs to be up there at the polls. He needs to be campaigning for Boris Johnson's seat, bro. This is where this guy needs to be. This guy, oh my God. Every race we hear him cry about Lewis trying to race him. I'll never forget Australia ever for as long as I live. Where he's crying about my own teammates attacking me. And then obviously he didn't have the pace, right? So it was quite clear quickly. Obviously they were dropping him in the top three. And then he's crashed by overdriving. Like, that's that for me. That's like he should have realized what his role was, right? When he's I mean, Lewis, he literally backed Fernando up to give him the DRS as well, and he could do nothing. So at some point you've got to.
He Latifi'd it,
bro.
He literally Latifi'd it, binned it for no reason. That's what we're calling it. He Latifi'd it.
And then what made it even worse, obviously, yes, I know the car's damaged, yeah, but this guy made the biggest meal of trying to overtake a Williams I've ever seen. And I don't care.
That battle with Albon, yeah?
Bro, the damage was significant, but it's not enough, given he could run all the way back up to that position. So he did well to get up to 8th. You're telling me he had to he was puffing. And then obviously to retire the car, I mean, honestly, what a calamity that was. It's so ironic to come after that.
I don't know if I'm bugging, but prior to the crash, was he saying something on the radio about what's the plan and stuff? Or am I bugging?
Yeah, straight away he was like, "Yeah, tell me about strategy."
What are you on about? What are you talking about plans for? He's backing up. He's backing up Fernando, overtaking, bro.
But I don't know whether the
lights got bright. The lights got bright. You saw Lewis and Alonso. He's trying to keep up with them, man. He overdrove.
Of course.
Hit the wall.
That incident was solely from overdriving to try and obviously get back into the fold with it, because he'd lost the DRS again. I think he actually gained it twice. Lewis basically gave it to him twice, and then he lost it twice, and then he's overdriving, and then honestly, like, and the way he chucks it in, if you watch again, the way he chucks it in, right, before he's even got to the first curb, he's finished. He's actually oversteering before he's even got to the first curb. So I'm not actually sure what his intention was. And to think obviously about strategy, right there, his head's already off what he's actually doing. So he's not focusing, obviously, at the race at hand. And we're only 10 laps in this one. He's thinking about strategy. And that obviously tells you there he's on the back foot. So he knows he doesn't have the pace. So then if you know you don't have the pace, why are you overdriving? Just hang tight, cut 3 or 4 seconds behind, and then obviously use strategy. So, I mean, I wouldn't say he's got a reputation for crashing on his own, but I mean, most of his crashes tend to come wheel to wheel. But there are signs.
What about that Williams crash under the safety car?
Well, yeah, you wouldn't see Alex doing that. So that's all I'm going to say on that one.
I know, Martz, you've been waiting. Thoughts on George Russell to actually? It's actually 6-2 now, I think, in races to Lewis. So yeah, he still believes he's faster than Lewis. What's going on?
Mission failed. We'll get him next time.
He was asking what the plan was. Martz, what was the plan?
Plan Z. Nah, I don't need to say anything, man.
You won.
I won. That was enough for me.
You won in life.
What was his plan?
What was it? Yeah, that's it, man. It's the me. What was his plan? That's the name of the pod. What was his plan? What was George's plan? He said, "What's the plan?" Then he decided 2 laps later, I'm gonna bin it. You tell me what's going on. Like, he tried to keep up with some world champions. He tried to keep up with Max Lewis and Alonso, and he was breathing heavy. Then he put in a wall. Then he bet Albon, and then he was breathing heavy. And then they said to him, "Yeah, retire the car." You know that's a strategic retire the car.
Save the engine.
Don't embarrass a Mercedes on live TV right now. Retire the car right now.
I think
I'm not gonna lie. Alonso used to do that all the time. Alonso used to say, "Yeah, something wrong with my brakes." He used to retire the car all the time.
George just needs to humble himself. Remember, you're still the student. I think, as I said, he came off last year thinking he was the guy. And it's like, no, you're not the guy. You're good at driving bad cars. And that's what we saw. When it comes to actually racing and you both got good cars behind you, or you both got equal cars behind you, and you're not working on it, trying to develop the car, he freezes. He freezes there, and it's like,
my man ain't moved.
Exactly. And I really don't know how you've been it. Like, it's so hard to know how you've been it there. I
don't know how he recovers this situation in terms of the inter-team battle with Lewis. I don't think he recovers those points.
He's about 50 points behind or something already.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have a look at the standings now. It's looking, obviously he's had 2 DNFs now. Obviously one of them won his fault, his engine block, but Lewis is 4th in the standings, 102 points, and George Russell's 65 points, 6. It's looking a bit nuts, but yeah, George, got to do better, mate. Got to do better.
Between him and Sainz, I don't know who's getting Latifi, because I think both of those guys, it was egregious weekend for both of them.
Before we get to Latifi, I'll let you think on that. We're gonna have to discuss it. I know certain people don't want to discuss it, but guess what? I'm going to discuss it. Max Verstappen equals Senna's win record, and that was Red Bull's 100th win. Are we looking at what I'm saying is, yeah, and I don't think people want to acknowledge it, because I think in Formula One, a lot of people don't acknowledge it at the time, but we're witnessing history. Max Verstappen is one of the...
Not to be a Liverpool fan and make it about Liverpool, but I think it just speaks to Hamilton's greatness. A team that has...
I'm talking about Max!
I don't care. A team that has how many championships? Is it 5, 6 championships now?
No, 5.
No, it's 4 with it all. 2 with Max.
4 with it. No, not 2 Max. Only 1. What are you talking about?
Okay, yeah, we don't count 2021. That's true.
No, 2021, they didn't win constructors, bro.
I was just talking about drivers.
If it's drivers, then it's 5.
Yeah, but Yeah, so 5 constructors championships, and Lewis has 103 wins compared to the 100, and they started from 2005. I think that speaks to his greatness, man. But congratulations to Red Bull on getting 100 wins. As I said, my driver has more than you, but and congratulations to Max for equaling Senna's record. It doesn't mean anything because you didn't get a helmet, unlike my goat. And my goat has the respect of his family because they love him out there. That's why he's an honorary citizen. Even though they beat one of their sons, imagine Lewis here is an honorary citizen and he beat a Brazilian in Brazil to win a championship. That's all
Who cares about Massa, man? Who cares about Massa? That was a crazy tangent on trying to speak about Max Verstappen, but Laurence, I know this is going to be a tough question for you.
I gave him his juice. Gave him his juice.
Well, I'm saying we're looking at an all-time great here. Max, what's the potential? He's what, 25 now? He's in a race-winning car. What records are getting broken?
Martz came out like this, that guy, and come down with me. Sad little life, Jane. Just come out, just hating out the gate. We are as much as it honestly makes me feel sick, because I think if Senna and Max had to race wheel to wheel, someone's ending probably worse than
we can't say that.
I was just, that would be, I'd like to see. I would have loved to have seen it, but I think we are. There isn't. You can't deny it, unfortunately. He's only 12 wins off Seb now, so he's at least going to be third in all-time standings, and he's going to win this title. So that's 3 in a row. Unfortunately, that's the reality of it, and he has the benefit, whether you accept it or not, obviously, of being able to say he beat the greatest driver of all time to a title. So, or at least run him to the final lap. And he's doing things that Ayrton, Senna, Michael Schumacher, Prost, Lewis, Seb, they all got obviously plaudits for doing. He's won. The only thing he hasn't done, and it's probably the only thing that I think that still stands out in terms of calling him a great, is he hasn't taken a car that was basically nowhere near winning, or maybe at most would win 1 race a year, and he's turned that team around completely. That team has been turned around with him involved, but he hasn't been the one that's been instrumental in doing it, like Lewis has, like Michael Schumacher has. I think that's the only thing that stands out. And I don't think it's actually going to be anything he's ever even interested in doing. He's not going to move to, at most, maybe a Ferrari move, but it's not like they're exactly
come to McLaren
in a mess. Yeah. Honestly, if that was the thing, like if he did that and then took them to a championship winning team, then the greatness is set in stone. You can't. There is no argument against it.
That is a real Orange Army, and that will piss off every Danny Rick fan as well.
Bro,
you know what? Let's do that.
I will be there no matter what.
I'll be there.
I'll learn Dutch. Don't play with me, man.
That's it. That's the only thing. That would make it, honestly. I'll be Orange Army if that was the case. But that's the only thing that sets him aside from probably the 3 greats. Alan Prost as well, if you want to include him 4. So I don't think it's going to happen. So, but I don't think Max cares. He don't care. He's going to have at least 5 more titles. So how can you deny it?
I think he gets to that 86 wins. 86. I think he gets 86 wins. I think that's a figure.
I remember sitting down in a restaurant, and I think you was there, Martz, or maybe you was late because you're always late. And I said in 2021, this is the middle of 2021, I said this guy minimum is getting 5 titles. Minimum. I said that in 2021, I said he's going to get 5 titles. I probably think he's still going to get 5 titles. And one thing I think he probably is going to do is eclipse everything Vettel's done.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
And that's scary.
Christian's going to make sure he does it.
He's going to get more Red Bull wins. He's going to get more titles at Red Bull.
Christian is going to make sure he does it. Like that, you know it is, yeah. You know Christian hates Vettel because he left, and that's why he keeps on molding Max into this guy, so
I said
he can
erase
just
all of
eclipse.
Vettel's records.
Like what's it called? It's kind of like how Neymar, Barca done Neymar when he left. Just when you went to that Barca museum, erase everything about Neymar. And that's what Red Bull wanted. Christian Horner wants to do, Max. Erase everything about Vettel. As far as they're concerned, it will be Coulthard and Webber. They're the only other drivers out there.
Cool.
Hey, listen, that would be funny, but like, listen, man. At the end of the day, like, I think a lot of people, one thing I'll tell you about Formula One, and I've said this for a very long time, is that they do not like people winning. They don't like greatness. We're in the honeymoon stage. Yeah. If Max is still winning next year and the year after, watch how the narrative changes at Sky Sports.
But you've already seen it. Obviously, I think maybe
used to talk crazy on Vettel's name.
Yeah.
On Sky Sports. It used to be insane. I was like, fam, watch it back. Watch the BBC coverage with Eddie Jordan and them, man. Look at the way they used to speak about Vettel. It was crazy.
Sky used to run polls on Vettel. They used to run polls on whether it was good for the sport. They used to tear him to pieces. That's happening to Max already on social media though. So it's coming.
I think Sky won't do it with Max because they've done it twice with Lewis and with Vettel. But you are noticing a narrative, especially in the way Brundle and Crofty are starting to talk about him, and they're like, "Oh, it's too easy for him, and this must be boring for him." And it kind of when you're saying those words like easy, boring, it's kind of saying, well, we need something to spice this up a bit. And this is why they're so excited that Mercedes are finally making movements. And why Aston Martin is making movements. And if only Ferrari could make these movements, like you know how long they dragged out that title charge for last year? Like Charles was done by France.
They were still talking about it in Singapore.
By France, Charles was done. And it was like, oh no, he can still do it. He's not that guy. Not that guy, pal.
I've got a question before we move on to Driver of the Day and Latifi Award. Do you think Red Bull win every race this season?
No. Nope.
Because there's a lot of chatter about it and like, oh, they can do it, whatever. I'm like, I've watched Formula One for like a very, very, very long time. That shit don't happen. There's gonna be one day where something's gonna go wrong for Red Bull and they're not gonna win the race because that's how Formula One works. But I think it's laughable to think they're gonna win every race.
I think Silverstone's gonna be an interesting one. Silverstone's gonna be an interesting one. We have sprint races. We have new tracks as well. Got Qatar and Singapore. No, what's the other track? Like Vegas. Those are two unknowns. So it's They've nearly.
When I think about it, they've nearly lost 2 races this year. They nearly lost Monaco. If they didn't get pole, if Max don't do that sector 3, that's it. The records, they're not going to get the record. You know what I mean? It's either Alonso or Charles Leclerc wins that race. So it's such a fine margins in Formula One. Yeah, look at this race now. He wasn't even that far ahead. Ferrari's had better race pace, and this guy was giggling while he was spinning over curbs. Like I nearly concussed myself, whatever. They're gonna do something. Someone's gonna fuck up, whether it be Max or Perez. One of them is gonna fuck up and lose a win.
I don't think they're gonna fail to win a race on pace. So I don't think anyone's gonna like Brazil last year. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think they're so far ahead that they have to throw it away, or they have to have a DNF or an incident or something. But it's gonna happen.
George has already taken Max on the starting line, so
yeah. So
you never know.
And another thing as well is Ted's notebook at the end of the Canadian Grand Prix. He said that Red Bull they've moved on now. They're not working on this car anymore. So you're not going to see any upgrades on this car. They've moved on to 2024. So as that car stands still in time, and other cars upgrade, then we're looking at, and if the title's already wrapped up, they might not care about that. Like Brazil last year, that was just a throwaway. They didn't care about that weekend whatsoever. They effed up the ride hacks and they just said, yeah, fuck it. We stink. Just for that single weekend.
Lewis suggested that Mercedes are going to do. Obviously, he knows that, so they're going to. He suggested they're going to eventually do the same. So I think the teams will just follow suit, and then the gap's going to remain the same. So I think they're going to get close. Obviously, they're 9 seconds off this time. But I think they would just fail to win a race based on the fact that no one has ever done that, and I don't think anyone's ever going to do that. That there are too many.
Schumacher came closest, isn't it? Was it 16? Or
16 out of 18, I think it was.
16 out of 17, I think it was.
2004, innit?
Yeah.
But them rules.
That will never happen again because you have to understand they had the whole tire thing as well. You have your own tires. This is like, imagine that in F1 now. People, that would be so controversial.
I would love it back, man. I love that back. Tire wars.
It's like there was only one race where 2004 was insane, man. Y'all know truly, man, saved us all. All right, we'll go to drivers of the day. Who are your drivers of the day, Laurence? Obviously, I know who it is.
Come on, my brother Alexandro.
You can speak about his race again if you want.
Not much needs to be said.
How many lap how old the tires? You done in Australia?
58 laps old. Is his hards, and he actually started on worn mediums. That was the crazy thing. He had old mediums. So, mate, obviously, and defended really well. His car placement was really good, actually, is what I liked. Sensible. Obviously, put that car. I don't think it's as bad as people now make out with those upgrades, but did nothing wrong and finished 7th, and Stroll finished wherever they're 9th or wherever the hell it was. So.
Stroll got Bottas on the line.
Yeah,
all of our predictions because everybody says Stroll on the line.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so that's it. Simple as that. I think it's underrated.
I think
how good a drive that can be in a car like that.
I think what's the name? This is my controversial opinion. I think if it was Lando behind him instead of Ocon, Lando would have done him.
Oh yeah. He was so glad that it went Lando
because Ocon was stinking.
Yeah,
with his twerking wing, I don't know, rear wing. I don't know how that's legal, by the way.
Yeah,
I've never seen that.
If that comes off, that's killing someone on the spot as well. That's the crazy thing.
Like people were saying, "Oh yeah, Lando's snitching." I'm like, bro, are you seeing this rear wing? Are you
he's snitching because he's gonna have his head chopped off if he don't. That's it.
I've never seen a rear wing like that, but yeah, shout out to Albon. What a race. Do you know what I mean? Single-handedly getting Williams off the bottom of the constructors standing. At the moment, AlphaTauri on the constructors bottom. And I don't know how, because they've got a faster car than McLaren. So how on earth are they last in constructors? This is very strange.
Certain coin going down.
No, we're not speaking on them teams there. Martz.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Albon as well.
You got Albon,
yeah. I think it's a no-brainer, isn't it?
Has John Joe Shelby ever got man of the match for any team?
Yeah, of course he has. Of course he has.
What was that match when he squared up to Fergie? That's my man of the match. That's my man of the match right there. When he squared up to Fergie. Yeah, my driver of the day is I think I'm gonna give it to, I don't know, nobody really stood out to me in that race except for Albon, so I'm gonna have to give it to Albon. Albon, full house. You know how rare that is in this pod to get full house. That's a full house right there. You get me? I can't give it to Lando because he had a penalty. I was gonna give it to Lando because he gave us all the entertainment because he was just dunking on everybody.
That penalty was so stupid, honestly.
Because of the I've never seen that before. Unsportsmanlike.
He was just trying to back up just to stop a double stack. Obviously, just sitting there. Unsportsmanlike. Oh, mate.
5 seconds, while certain man were doing craziness and weren't getting no time. Anyways, Latifi Award. Who had the stinker of the weekend, Laurence?
Can I give it to De Vries and Magnussen just for that clown show? That clown show for 19th
I've never seen
place,
people
bro.
simultaneously lock up.
That was, bro. These are supposed to be world-class drivers. Yeah, I swear to you, I've seen worse at team sport, bro. I swear
No,
to you.
I give an allowance to Kevin Magnussen because these tires was old as shit. De Vries had new tires.
Yeah. To be fair,
Everybody was dunking on K-Man because his tires were dead.
But I just think that was like, yeah, bro. I've seen worse, honestly, on a kids' karting session. That was bonkers. So give it to De Vries. Screw it.
De Vries collecting them like he's infinity rings this season. He's got bare Latifi awards. Martz.
Okay. So there was a few that could have got it. George Russell, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, Ferrari. But I'm going to go with Daniel Ricciardo. Because what was that awful stream?
I haven't even seen it, guys. I haven't seen it.
Did you watch that? Please talk, bro.
Man. Listen, man. I'm not going to speak about how I watch Formula 1. Let me not speak
because I refused to pay for Sky. I had to find other means to watch the race, and I was out as well. So the normal Sky Sports stream kind of went down. So I had to go find another stream. And I found the one with Danny Ricciardo and Will Arnett. And it was easily the worst thing I've ever seen. Listen, Danny Ricciardo was talking, the very technical, and Will Arnett was just not getting anything at all. And they were trying to crack jokes, and it was just dead. It was horrible. It was horrific. And yeah, that's who the TV would go to. Sky for well done for trying something new, but that did not work at all. And you need to find someone, Danny Rick. If you're going to have Danny Rick there, you're going to have to find someone he can bounce off of. And Will Arnett was not that guy. I'll be real with you.
Yeah, I didn't know Will Arnett watched Formula 1 and that. So that was a bit of a sticky one. They need to just get Pitstop from there. You get me? We could have a conversation on there. But
imagine Anik on Sky. Oh, gosh.
Jordan Henderson. No. Okay, right? He would go on a rant about Jordan Henderson being better than Ronaldo or something like that. He would do something stupid like that. But yeah, my Latifi was George Russell. Stinker. Absolute stinker, bro. Just, I don't want to hear it. There's no excuse, man. Binning it and then saying that you're faster than a certain man and not just binning it. Ridiculous.
And Sergio Perez, we ain't forgot you as well. I'm just letting you know that. I'm going to
defend
was a stinker of a weekend.
I'm not
that was a stinker of a weekend. Both race and...
He recovered.
Both race and quali, he was kind of stinky still.
Do you know what's so funny? Yeah, I'll say this. Yeah, he'll have stinker weekends, whatever. But I guarantee he'll probably win one of the next 5 races. He'll just win one.
Yeah, like I said, it's a cycle. He does it.
And then everybody's gonna forget about it, and then he's gonna stink it up for like 3 races. Then he's gonna get him out of the seat. Then he's gonna get another podium. It's just this is the cycle, man. Before we go, we'll just do a couple of listeners' questions. We only got a few. Stinner season. Are we ready to admit Sainz is a worse terrorist than Maldonado? I'll say Maldonado is quicker than Sainz. I'll say that.
Wow.
Maldonado.
Is that crazy? Is that a crazy thing to say? Maldonado was quick though.
Wow. Maldonado was Osama bin Laden. You don't get better than that. Okay? You don't get better than that.
F1 terrorism.
Maldonado used to do the craziest things. Like when him and Grosjean was on the track, oh my God. My gosh.
Maldonado used to jumpstart races with such confidence. The guy would jumpstart. The lights are not out yet, brother. Why are you halfway down the grid already? What's going on? The guy was so funny, man. I thought he was quick. I thought he was good. He had a quick 1 lap pace. You get me? One in Spain, he kept Alonso on the manners.
He's not quicker than Carlos. Come on.
He's not quicker than Carlos. Why? Is he not quicker than Carlos?
He had a flash in the pan race, obviously, and then what? Yeah, one lap pace, okay, but in the race, nothing. Carlos did his bit at McLaren. That's the bit. If I have to go back to it at McLaren,
Oh yeah,
he
did his thing. He did his thing.
you know,
For
he
that
did his
bit.
thing there. So that's it. Simple as that for me.
Okay. We'll move on to the next question. Will Perez get to the end of his contract? And Merc versus AM upgrades. So obviously we spoke about this. So when Martz kind of came off for a second, we'll speak of the second one first. Merc brought their upgrades in Monaco, kind of were fruitful in Silverstone. No, Silverstone in Barcelona. Now Aston Martin have brought their upgrades in Canada, and now they seem quite equal again. Who's going to end up on top, Martz?
I have faith in my goat.
Yeah. You have faith in your goat to make the upgrades work, yeah?
Yeah, of course. I think their problem is a bit like tire. They're getting the heat in the tires. They've always struggled with that, especially with these new regs. And I think if they can sort it out, and apparently there's 2 new upgrades to be coming before the summer break. So one, I think it's one in Silverstone.
Yeah.
And then one probably be Spa then.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I have faith in my goat. I think they'll come out on top. I think Aston Martin while they've been great, they do have moments where they don't get it right as well. And I think those moments happen more.
Yeah. I'll go to the other question. Will Perez get to the end of the contract, Laurence? His contract runs out next year.
Yeah, without fail. We've explained why already.
Yeah, we kind of already spoke about that, yeah. We'll go to Theo Mohina at _Theo Mohina. We already spoke about unsportsmanlike behavior. He's also said, are we ready to admit Osama bin Russell will cost any chance of Mercedes bringing the fight to Red Bull?
No, I think that's yes. I think if there's one person you want to go into battle with, especially against Max, Russell has shown that he's willing to.
Russell will martyr him.
Yeah, he's
ready. Take out Max, no problem, boss.
Yeah, I think he's not Bottas. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah. What one from D Conscious? How many points would Yuki have if the FIA didn't have an agenda against him? Seeing Albon jump to 12 in the driver's standing got me low-key salty. So clearly, good. This is somebody that is a Yuki fan over an Albon fan, clearly.
Good.
No, he gets targeted for no reason, man.
Oh yeah. But he does some strange stuff as well. Like this weekend, he was doing the same thing. He blocked literally everyone. And then he screams on the radio and then does the same thing. It's like, bro, every day he's switching it up. That's it. So that's it. I think
yeah. Yuki haters.
I just don't get it. Like, good drive. I think he's very quick when he can be, but
he's quick in the wet.
Yeah, which I can't disagree. But he's not going to push that car anywhere where it needs to go. How many points would he have? I don't even know how many he has now. Has he got 2 points?
Yeah, and then he's finished like 11th like 4 times.
So he might have 4 or 5. He ain't gonna get more than 1 point a race.
He's been shagged bare times, man.
Yeah.
I feel bad for him. He's definitely he's putting the freeze in the dirt. He's
all of his shouting and little man syndrome. He's gonna have to hold that one.
All right, whatever. All right, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you guys for listening to the pod. If you got here so far, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter at Pitstop Fracas, follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you are listening, please leave us a 5-star review. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And we will be back in Austria to review the. Was it Styrian? No, always say it's this Austria now. Austria GP. Peace.